Clients and Friends. I'm Pramod Sharma, and our guest is Jim Murray, the Creative Director at Onwards and Upwards. Welcome, Jim.
Well, thanks for having me.
I met Jim recently through LinkedIn, and we'll start off by asking Jim what he does. Briefly, could you describe what you do?
Onwards and Upwards is a creative resource. It's 25 years old this year, in fact, and basically it provides creative services for small businesses primarily, strategy, and all the creative that goes with it, and all the production that goes with that. And I work for a number of different companies around the city, and some of them are larger, some of them are smaller, and some of them have a lot of demands, and some of them just have a few. And I'm primarily a writer and an art director.
Okay, and our topic today is the hassle with CASL. Now, before we start, keep in mind that we are not providing professional advice. We're just interpreting CASL from our own perspectives, and you should go to experts who can help you answer specific questions about the topic. Now, you have Sorry?
Yes, indeed.
Now, you have a number of concerns about CASL. First of all, what is the government trying to do?
Well, I think the government is, in the broader sense, they're trying to limit the amount of spam that goes into people's inboxes. Somebody put it that they were trying to give you back your inbox and give you back control of it, because a lot of this stuff comes in and you don't really know where it's coming from. You didn't ask for it, you didn't sign up for it. It just shows up, and maybe because somebody got your business card in a networking group, or they found you on the internet somehow, or through LinkedIn or one of those other sources, and they just decided to send you a newsletter, hoping that you would fall in love with them somehow. But what happens is that over the course of time, your inbox builds up with a lot of clutter. And for people who don't have good spam filters, which apparently, according to the government, are a lot of people, I don't have this problem myself, but it's a hassle to deal with it. And what they're trying to do is to make that a little bit less hassle-free, I suppose.
Okay, and that sounds like a good goal. But sometimes having goals leads to side effects.
Well, the side effect, this is an initiative that was taken by, and I think it was agreed to back in the early part of the century in the G20 summit meeting, and there are 19 other countries that are involved with this sort of legislation, or 18. I don't know if the United States opted into this, but Canada, for some reason, is created the most all-encompassing version of this anti-spam legislation, which means it doesn't just cover programmed emails offshore. Well, it can't cover offshore spam, but any kind of programmed emails that come to people. But it also extends itself down to one-to-one communications, and this is basically the nexus of my problem with it. Which is, I don't personally do a lot of email broadcasting, but every once in a while I'll see something that's interesting and I want to write to somebody about it, or I'll see a company that I think is interesting and want to find out more about what they want to do, or find out if they outsource their creative services and how they go about doing that. It's been impossible to get a hold of these people on the phone in the past, so email was always a really convenient tool for that. And now what the government has said is basically you have to have that person's permission in order to talk to him in the first place. But if you can't get his permission, it creates a catch-22 that a lot of people are finding really hard to deal with, and don't really have a workaround for at this point in time.
Yes, it does seem quite onerous for the one-to-one, because work connections, I feel that I should be able to send you an email, not put you on a mailing list and send you emails all the time, but how else am I supposed to contact you, and vice versa? Exactly,
and this is the whole point, where at a certain point it could be construed as interference in the normal course of business. The other thing to remember about CASL is that it is a report-based system, and so you can probably still feel comfortable about going on about your business with people that you know with no problem. The only trouble is with people that you don't know what their predisposition towards this is, and if they decide to report you, you can get into a lot of trouble. The fines are ludicrous, to say the least. But they're out there and they're real. And what it's really done is two things. One, it's created a kind of climate of fear out there in the small business community because people really don't know how to go forward. And the second thing that it's done is it's created a certain amount of resentment towards the government as interfering in their business somehow, you know. And that's kind of how I feel about it. But I don't know if everybody feels the same way. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world for anybody because I think that everything resolves itself over time. But right now, there's a lot of people that are in a kind of a state of shock over this because they don't know how to go forward. And when people don't know how to go forward, that just means things slow down. And when the economy and when those things are important to the economy and the economy slows down, everything else slows down around it, you know. So my bewilderment is why they would make it so draconian in the first place. That's really the fundamental question I have. I can understand trying to cut down the amount of program spam that's coming into people's computers. That makes a lot of sense. But I don't understand this one-to-one stuff at all.
Right. Now, what do you consider spam to be?
Spam is the stuff that you get if you're on Facebook and you go and somebody says, "Could you go like this page for me?" And you go and like this page because you're thinking, "Oh, that person's my friend and I'm supporting them and I'm going to like this page and it's no big deal." And then a week later you get a newsletter from the page that you liked, and then a week later you get another one and you get another one. And pretty soon you got 5 or 6 newsletters, and you really didn't care about it in the first place. You were just doing a favor for somebody. This is how it generally happens. The second part of spam is, which I call the Nigerian prince spam, which is the guy who wants your bank account number, and he has $10 million sitting in escrow somewhere that some lady whose name is similar to yours, maybe she died and left it all to you, maybe if your name is this. And they're really just trying to con you. And the other stuff is all of the program pharmaceuticals and that sort of thing that come from the main sources for these are Nigeria, Malaysia, and India. Okay, because that's where a lot of these centers are, and that's where a lot of this stuff originates from, and the United States to some extent. So that kind of spam that's coming to you, I don't know how they got my email address. I don't, you know, I have theories about it, but I don't want to talk about them in public. But it's that sort of thing that I consider spam. I don't consider getting an email from somebody. Say I use photography a lot, you know, so I get an email from a photographer saying, "Hey, check out my website. I just updated my portfolio," but he doesn't know me. Well, technically, he's not allowed to send me that email anymore. And the point is that as an art director, I need to know who's out there, who can do what. You know, I'm happy to receive this. I'm not going to report him or anything. But from his point of view, he's taking a big chance right now because he doesn't know who I am, what I'm like. I'm maybe having a bad day and just say, "Oh, I'm forwarding this to the CRTC. I didn't ask for this." You know, and a lot of the reporting that's going to get done is as a result of that, you know, and it makes me feel bad. It makes me feel like somehow somebody's taken away a tool that we used to use productively and made it something we can no longer use anymore. It's not a harmful tool. It's not a spam. A one-to-one email like that is not spam. And everybody I've talked to that is just learning about this for the first time, it's just been, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "Yep, that's what it is." And they just can't believe it. So, you know, spam is the stuff that you can't control. It's stuff that comes at you involuntarily. You never signed up for it. You never wanted it in the first place. You know, that sort of thing. It's hard to deal with.
And most of that is coming from outside the country.
Well, 98% of it.
And people sending those messages will not be changing their practices due to CASL.
Yeah, you can't get a hold of those people. You can't track them down, and their countries may or may not be involved with this and be able to enforce this, and it's going to keep on coming. I had one person, a friend of mine, who said to me, I have a spam filter on my email. I go in once a week and I erase all the spam. And that's the extent to which spam is in my life. Why is there this big 900-page law, an anti-spam law, when I don't really have a problem with it? And there are a lot of people that feel that way. You know, they just don't have a problem with spam. They just deal with it. It comes in. It's part of the natural course of things. The same as even if you signed up for no, calls.
Do not call, right?
Yeah, the do not call list. You're still getting calls.
Yes.
So you can hang up on them, or you can do what Jerry Seinfeld did, which is, I'm busy right now. Can I have your home number and I'll call you later? And oh, you can't give me your home number. Well, now you know how I feel. So it's that sort. That was one of the best gags on it on the show that I ever saw, and that's the whole point. You're going to get hit with this stuff no matter what. I'm getting just as much spam as I always have, maybe even a little bit more, because I got a lot of spam in July from people saying, please sign up, please opt in for me. And I also got, believe it or not, 3 emails from U.S. companies offering to send my spam to Canada. They're very enterprising down there, and I was waiting for that to happen, and sure enough it did. I was blown away.
Now, what's been happening to databases as a result of CASL?
There's sort of a good and bad to that. Like a lot of people, Jeremy Miller is one of them. We're starting to come around to the notion that you send out an opt-in request on your database, to your whole database, and 10% of them respond and opt in, and 90% of them don't. And so that leaves you it leaves you wondering, well, what about that other 90%? But the fact is that those are people who didn't care about you in the first place. Mm-hmm. So this legislation has done is actually help you clean out your database, whether you needed to or not.
Right, so it's not that you're losing 90%. You never had that 90%.
You never had it. So, and I look at it from the point of view, well, I'd rather have, 10% of my database that's really interested in getting correspondence from me, as opposed to having to go through the whole process of sending out to a great many people that don't care and risk, cheesing them off somehow, I wouldn't want to do that. There are other people that have said to themselves, I've spent years building this database. It was an opt-in, permission-based database, and there's no way I'm going to corrupt it. They can come after me if they want, but I'm going to keep on sending out emails. And I know 3 people like that, and I hope the CRTC doesn't call me and ask me for their names. But that's their point of view on it, is that they can't imagine anybody on their database reporting them because they have a lot of faith in the recipients on the other end. Mm-hmm. It's a faith-based system. A lot of people, and the other thing too is that, getting back to the one-to-one thing, I don't think a lot of people really know how to report anybody. The lack of communication, and I'm sure this is your next question, was the lack of communication that came out about this. I found out on Facebook about 3 weeks before the end of July, or the end of June.
The end of June, yes.
Yeah, and so I immediately scrambled around and got my email together and figured out what to do and changed all my email signatures and did all the compliance stuff that you had to do, because it scared me. On the surface, $1 million fine is scary. And after that, I started to think about how I would move forward, and I realized that I really wasn't all that dependent on it, but I started to hear from people who were really concerned and wanted to know what was happening, and all I could think of was, why don't they know already? Why am I telling them as a friend on Facebook or a friend on LinkedIn? why are they? Because I've been vocal about it. I wrote a couple blogs about it, and so people read the blogs and went, "Oh, gee, we better talk to Jim. He knows more about it than we do because we know nothing." You know, and I didn't know a heck of a lot more than that. And I don't think anybody really does, because I don't think there's maybe 2 people in Canada that have really read these things, and they were probably the proofreaders. You know, I mean, it's a 900-page document, and it's got all kinds of stipulations and this and that and the other thing. It's the stuff I read was just really complicated, and you had to read it 4 or 5 times to even get a hint at what it was about. You know. I don't understand it. It strikes me, my cynical guy says, boy, these lawyers who put this together really made a fortune, you know, and that was where I ended up netting out, you know, which was, it was just this big giant dinosaur piece of legislation that isn't really necessarily going to solve the problem it was set out to solve. You know, I don't know if it is or not, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, there's definitely confusion, because I know that when I sent you an email, you kindly told me that, hey, your email signature doesn't have your mailing address.
Yes.
Thinking, well, yeah, this isn't a newsletter, it's just me sending an email to you.
Yeah.
And I did add it because if that's what they require, but like I didn't know that, and I've been paying reasonable attention.
I found out from somebody who found out from somebody else, and it's working through the network as opposed to through any information. The government, some local communities have set up information centers, but say the guy I was telling you about who has the database of 10,000 that he's not going to touch, he went to his lawyer and he sat down and he paid $150 to get briefed on this program. And he came out of there, and I actually met him the next day, and I said, how'd it go with the lawyers? And he was like, they didn't know anything. It was a waste of money and a waste of my time, and I have no more knowledge now than I did back then. Another guy who's a photographer, a friend of mine, started writing to the government and the CRTC and people like that, and all they kept doing is playing back the party line. You must have permission, you know, blah blah blah, and it doesn't seem like anybody really understands this law, you know, in totality. And I think that the people who are going to end up understanding it the most are the lawyers who actually start finding ways to work around it somehow, because there's going to have to be workarounds, because there's certain people that are going to be seriously affected by it. But I never got that much correspondence from my banks or any investment companies or any people that I deal with to comply with this, you know, and so I'm thinking, gee, maybe I hope my investment company doesn't get fined him $10 million.
Because that'll just increase the prices that they charge you.
It's just created a great deal of confusion and uncertainty and fear. And I'm under the impression that governments should be creating more of an environment for growth and prosperity and opportunity, and they just keep on doing this stuff, and I'm like, gosh, you know, what's going on? But it is what it is, and you have to live with it until it gets changed, and if and when it gets changed. And so the idea is to work around it, you know, somehow.
Yeah, so definitely there is a lot of hassle with CASL. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on the topic.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, what we'll do now is I'll say a few words, and then I'll just ask you to tell me what comes to your mind.
Okay.
Okay. The first word is health.
So you say health, I say exercise.
The next word is wealth.
Satisfaction.
Okay. The next word is insurance.
Protection.
Okay. The next word is trust.
Faith.
Okay. And the final word is now.
That's over.
Okay, now is over. Okay, thanks for participating in that. What's the best way for people to reach you?
Well, by email.
you
Oh
want
my
then
God,
you'll
did
sue
I
them,
say
right?
Yeah, I'm a government shill. Email me all you want, and I'll make sure that your email's forwarded to the CRTC, jim@onandup.ca, and I'll make sure you get into lots of trouble.
Wow.
But mostly, if you're a small business and you need some help, that's what I'm looking for. I like working with small businesses. The more entrepreneurial, the better.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Okay,
Jim.
thank you.
Okay. Thanks for joining us for Tea at Taxevity. The Taxevity Insurance Advisory helps you understand insurance and bridges gaps in your coverage. There's no premium for peace of mind. How healthy is your insurance?